Alrighty, welcome to a podcast. It's the first one that we're doing here, and today we have joined with us Noah Whitford. He is a school alumni from just this last year, and he goes to Alma College. He likes to wear a kilt as he marches around the field. Noah, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
So basically, I'm going to be asking you a series of questions. This will only last about 5 to 7 minutes, depending on how you answer. Okay, so one of the questions is, what have you been doing during this time of self-isolation, or quarantine in your case because you're at college?
Actually, they told us to get off of campus as soon as possible and gave us an incentive to get off of campus, but we still have classes going on that are online.
Right, online classes. Alrighty, but have you been doing anything else other than online classes, like finding ways to entertain yourself, playing video games, or
I have been playing video games, trying to play as many as possible, but there's also been work around the house that I've been forced to do.
correct, same here. So as you might have heard, is President Trump plans on extending the self-isolation till April 30th. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's just a few days after my birthday, and I won't really get to see people that I enjoy seeing. Uh, and probably no party until at least May.
Correct.
So,
Because the total cases in Michigan right now are 9,334 confirmed cases. We don't know if there's any more cases or people just not wanting to get tested. But
yeah.
so every state handles it differently. How do you think the state of Michigan is going to handle this whole extension of self-isolation?
I feel like we're going to handle it a bit well. I know that Governor Whitmer has been fighting against Trump to try and get more kits and stuff like that. And I've
Right.
heard that she has been like bidding against other states to try and get more medical supplies for that.
Right, because as it is, the federal emergency supply, there isn't enough for every hospital in the U.S.
That is true.
And so as you might have heard, today Gretchen Whitmer signed an order that all K through 12 schools are to shut down. They're becoming like a college situation where they have to be online classes. What are your thoughts on that? Because me personally, I think it was a good idea, but it was way too late.
Yeah, I feel like this was too late as well. I know that Alma, we waited until there were just 12 cases before we went to online, and they were
Right.
trying to get people off campus as soon as it hit like 12 cases. But I
Right.
know that for on campus, we heard that it was coming closer to Michigan and that people were wanting to get off campus as soon as possible due to that.
Right.
And at midnight, when we were told we were allowed to get off campus, I heard people shouting because it came through at midnight and I wanted to sleep.
That is not exactly the ideal way to get people off campus. So how much longer do you, as just your own personal opinion, how long do you foresee this self-isolation period continuing?
Uh, for me personally, I'm probably going to be stuck in this house until like midsummer.
So as a college student, how has COVID-19 affected your daily life? Because I know for me as a student, I'm used to 7 hours a day of just daily human interaction, and I do sports and I do extracurricular activities, and I normally come home and we go places. But as a student stuck at home, I have not been able to see my friends or do classes. How has it affected you over at college?
So for me personally, it has pulled me away from actually getting help in classes that I would need help in because college is a lot harder than high school. And with that, I've had to drop classes because of it. And even though I've dropped these classes, it's still very stressful on me because I'm still taking classes while I've heard that you guys have not started taking classes online yet.
Right, because it was just put in place today that schools were closed because we knew that colleges were closed officially. They stopped all
Yeah.
face to face and they stopped everything. But the reason online hasn't started for us is because just today, several hours ago, Gretchen
Yes.
Whitmer finally signed the order to stop face-to-face classes and proceed with online classes.
Yes.
And for the final question here, has COVID-19 driven you to do anything that you have never done before? Because I know for me, I've never done a podcast type deal. I've never edited videos. I've never done anything like that. I've never made a TikTok before. And so as of right now, I am making TikToks on the daily for comedic relief for people who need it. And as of right now, you are my first interviewee for this podcast series that I plan on doing.
So for me, not really anything has changed. I know that I've been trying to get more into doing the homework that I need to do and try and get it as complete as possible, but nothing that has been abnormal, like doing TikTok. Like, I still don't even have the app downloaded. Uh, I do go through Snapchat stories a bit more often now, though.
My social media intake hasn't really changed since COVID-19 just because of COVID-19. I'm trying to avoid Facebook and stuff because I know that there's going to be a lot of fake news circulating. And there's going to be a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
people
there's so
trying to
much
induce
fake
panic.
news.
So another question, how do you feel for the high school seniors of this year? Like, what do you think they're going through?
Um, Being a previous senior just this last year, I still feel like I am one of the seniors, and that even though that the year should be coming down to an end, it's not really coming to an end.
Right, because if you still think about it, there's still several months of school year left.
Yeah, just about 2 months left. And with me, if I did not take a spring term, which weird, we have a weird system for which we do school terms, but
Right.
if I did not do a spring term, I would be out a month earlier than you guys.
That does make sense. Well, that is all the questions I really have to ask you today. If you would like to come back and be another interviewee later on, I will for sure message you. But thank you for this. Thank you for coming out and letting me take up some of your time asking some questions that might be somewhat political, but
Yeah, it's fine if it's political. I don't try and take stances, but I know that sometimes you're forced to.
right, everybody has an opinion. You may not take a stance, but you do have an opinion.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy.
You too.
Have a nice day.
You too.
My guest tonight is a physics and engineering teacher from Ovadelsi, David Pastula. He is finishing his second year of teaching here at OE, and he coaches cross country, track, and runs the tabletop gaming club. He's a recent graduate of Michigan State University, where he spent his time in the Michigan State Spartan marching band. Welcome to the podcast.
Howdy, thanks for having me.
Let's see. So I got a little list of questions here. So this whole COVID-19 thing, I feel like it's been going on 3 weeks now, and what have you been doing during this time of self-isolation to keep yourself entertained?
Well, I mean, like the quarantine's really been happening for 3 weeks, but the medical, especially global community's really seen this thing since early into January, which that's part of me being a science teacher. I'm seeing that and kind of getting a lot of that firsthand. But kind of go into what I've been doing. I mean, social distancing, same as everyone else. I've been mostly held up here in the apartment. I go out shopping pretty much only for either necessities for myself, or I also go shopping for my parents who are much older, and therefore I'm trying to make sure they're able to stay healthy. I also have been out running a lot. As you heard, I'm a cross country and track coach, and I've got a number of races that, well, at least are currently planned for the summer. We'll see how that goes. But trying to get in my miles to train for those as best as I can. Other than that, I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing since it came out.
Hey, that's perfectly okay. I've been playing a lot of God of War and a bunch of other video games that I haven't had time to get into because they're just such a time-consuming thing. and I've just been getting so into them. So I'm not sure if you heard, but President Trump has extended the self-isolation period from April 13th to April 30th. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it was justifiably put in place, or do you think we're kind of at the butt end of it? It was kind of just an unnecessary precaution?
So, I mean, especially with what we're seeing from a lot of different state governments, we're seeing a lot of states already putting in longer periods of time than the federal government. It's mostly just because, you look at what Governor Whitmer has done here in Michigan, where, she can actually make like an actual proclamation going out and saying, hey, you have to be social distancing. The federal government doesn't necessarily have that kind of power, which is why it's just, this is their recommendation.
It's kind of, it's kind of has the power of a suggestion, pretty much.
Right. And I mean, everything you're looking at right now, U of M recently released their statistics, kind of judging based on the Beaumont Health System down in Detroit, in which it looks like our peak here in Michigan is going to range somewhere between possibly April 10th, if we really do things right, all the way into larger into May. And especially in those times, you're also looking at when do we cross the threshold for, overfilling what our medical system can actually withstand before, we see it go down. I mean, we already see in New York now how they had to bring in a naval ship where all surgeries, all non-coronavirus patients are being shipped or put on that ship so that they can just keep those hospitals fully stocked because they have so many people who are needing of it. So I think that not only was it a good decision that the COVID-19 response team came to, as well as President Trump, but also I would not be surprised to see that get extended even further into May. I mean, there's obviously a few things based on there, but I know as a science teacher and everything that I've been seeing, it would do the country good to go even a bit further than what we see currently.
Right, because as you said, in New York, they brought in a naval ship, but also in many other states, they're closing different sorts of facilities, such as stadiums, hotels, meetings, hotel lodges and stuff, so they can have kind of a secondary place for a hospital for kind of non-prioritized patients to go if something minor does happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Also today, about 11 o'clock today, Gretchen Whitmer officially signed the order that all K through 12 schools are to cease face-to-face actions. Now, in my opinion, that was a very good idea because the total cases in Michigan as of 3 p.m. today was 9,334 cases, and they are still going up because Michigan is now getting more testing kits. So do you think that it was 110% justifiable for schools to close for the rest of the foreseeable school year?
Yeah, and just to give you a heads up, at about 4 p.m. today, we actually crossed the 10,000 mark here in Michigan. But yeah, it sucks. As an educator, I want to be in there. I want to be having those interactions with kids to help, grow their understanding of tricky materials. Physics isn't something which you can just look at and go, oh, that all makes sense. You need to actually interact with it. You need to be able to wrestle with those concepts in a safe space, and I can't provide that. So as much as it does suck, it is the right decision. Having all the kids together who, we're starting to find out that even if you are young and healthy, you are still at risk. We've seen 20-year-olds, we've seen, 25, 30-year-olds, people in my age range who had no prior history of lung or heart issues falling victim to COVID-19. So getting all those people in that place together, not only does that put you guys in danger, it puts the staff in danger as well as it puts your families. Because if one of you guys takes it back to, your parents or even worse, your grandparents, we would just be fueling this beast that is COVID-19. And in this case, we are, at least in my opinion, taking the proper steps to hopefully, minimize and flatten out this curve.
Correct. And you're right, because in certain classes, it's going to be really hard to provide the help needed over online, such as physics or, let's say, chemistry for Mr. Toppings. There's a lot of classes that it would be nearly impossible or incredibly difficult to supply the necessary face-to-face, hands-on interaction that you do need, such as STEM class, physics, and many other classes that are offered.
No, the administration at OE is still talking about different ways which they can go about doing it. And, you're going to probably hear something from your teachers over this next week, maybe, hopefully, as long as we get the guidance we need as far as, what do we look for you guys? The state of Michigan, Governor Whitmer did say in her release today that for everything, for us to still continue to get our funding, we still need to show that online learning is taking place, or not even online, just distance learning is taking place. If I can provide an example, I used to teach out in Roanoke, Virginia, and so I reached out to some of my teacher friends down there, and they have 2 ways that they've been doing learning. For the kids who have internet access, they've had teachers putting out, their plans on the internet, and, they have like an office hours with kids, once a day or once every few days, where the kids can like do what we're doing here, a meeting, and try to talk through the material. But for the kids who don't have it, they also have physical packets that they send home once a week. They do runs to all the different areas to deliver lunches, and with the lunch comes, okay, here's a packet of supplies that, your teacher is saying, okay, this is, the printed materials for the week, or here's the reading, or here are like your practice worksheets. So I'm not 100% certain what we're going to go with, but we're going to have something to hopefully fill that void for you guys.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised, Ovid LC being the small community it is, I wouldn't be surprised if they went along the route of hand delivering the packets or mailing out the packets, because I'm pretty sure that if the school does go about the route of mailing the packets, the federal government will give some sort of tax relief or free postage for schools needing to do that.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's a possibility because not every school may do it. So if there's a lot of schools needing to do it, they might do that.
Yeah.
So next question is, how has COVID-19 affected your daily life? I know as you being a teacher and me being a student, our lives got kind of disrupted majorly because we can no longer have that consistency 5 days a week that we always had of going to school for 7+ hours a day and then coming home with that consistent schedule of seeing people every day and hanging out with people every day and just having human interaction every single day. I know that's kind of interrupted my life, and I don't know how much it's affected your daily life.
Yeah, it's, as a teacher, you have to be somewhat of an outgoing person, and I definitely feel it here. Getting out for runs, thankfully, it's been beautiful out. So, like, I've still been able to get outside, and I've had that itch scratched, but I've been recently doing just like video chats with like friends from college, where we'll just like get together and either like, play some like random game on the internet all together, or just like sit and talk and catch up. So that aspect has actually been fantastic, where I've gotten to see those people. But yeah, like my sleep schedule is a complete mess right now. But it's something we're working through, and hopefully I'll get myself on some sort of schedule that brings some normalcy.
Right. And so the next question I have is, has COVID-19 driven you to do anything new? Like, has this made you think to yourself, well, I suddenly have all this free time. Why don't I try to do something new?
Completely new, not necessarily. I've more just been actually like taking more time and devoting more of that time to like actually doing the things which I do more. I'm now not only when I go out and run, but I'm like actually doing full stretches when I get back, which I didn't used to do. I've tried cooking a lot more, like brand new meals, like that are like intricate and everything, because I have, now I can set aside an hour or two to actually try to fully prep a dish and make it as well as I can.
That's what I've also been doing. Whenever I go for runs, I take time before I leave. I stretch. I go for my run. I come back. I stretch again. And I actually have time to do little side workouts, and I have time to do my plyos. And normally it's just to get up, I have to run, and then I have to come home and do what I need to do. And this whole podcast thing, I would never actually have the time for this. And it's a whole different experience, actually, seeing people and asking questions that actually are requiring me to draw from my intelligence and make me do my research. And it's a whole new fathom of just ideas for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last question is, how do you think the seniors of the 2020 class are feeling right now? Because I know that Gretchen Whitmer has said that seniors are graduated. They are no longer seniors. And I heard that MSHAA is allowing another year of eligibility for current year seniors to come back next year in their own little class of like?
So the two little caveats with that. One, you're only graduated if you were on track, which your school principal and the guidance counselors
To determine whether you're ready to go or
right.
not. That's
Like
the same way with every grade.
if you were failing every single one of your classes, including like the ones you needed for graduation, they're not going to push you on. But yeah, if you were taking all the right steps, if you were treating yourself well, you'll be done and graduated. And as far as the extra year of eligibility, that I believe they're still trying to finalize all those details, and they're hoping to have them out either later today, which I might not have seen if it came out, or they'll have it out tomorrow.
Right. It's probably going to be an apply and get accepted basis. Not every senior gets it, but you have to have graduated on good terms, and you've had to be in good standing with the team.
And probably also not playing for a college at that time. I got to imagine that would put up some gray area.
Correct.
But yeah, no, I can't imagine what it's like for seniors right now. There are so many milestones which you kind of hype up, especially, from your freshman year through that junior year. You're seeing all the cool things that now for 3 years, these kids before you, some of whom you've idolized, some of whom you despise, but in the end, they're all getting to do these cool quintessential things, the senior prom, like the senior trip, graduation, going across that stage. And I'm not sure I'm not sure if graduation is still on the docket for
pushed. I don't think it'll be. Nothing is at its scheduled time, of course, because everything is being pushed due to COVID-19. But
so yeah, it might be. But that still may not happen, and I don't even think I can fully empathize with that, just because it is such a unique situation. There's nothing that I've experienced in my time here on this earth where I can, say, okay, I felt this building up for years and years, and then to not have that pay off. In some way, shape, or form, I always had some sort of closure, even if it wasn't always great closure. This feels like a complete lack of that. And so my heart really does go out to those seniors who are kind of in this weird limbo here.
Right. And I really appreciate you taking the time for just to talk with me tonight. And I hope everything's going well on the home front over there. And
yeah, of course. Thanks for inviting me out.
Yeah, no problem. I hope that we'll be able to talk again, just not over a podcast. I really hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you when I see you, I guess.
Take care, Colin.
Take care.